Again, hi Betsy. How are you doing today?
Great. How are you?
Good, good. Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday.
All right, and this is week two. This is our second session. So, in the first session, we talked about just to recap what we are doing here as a project between you and me. My name is Naja Faisal. I'm the founder and CEO of Parrots Lab, which is a B2B marketing agency. And Betsy, why don't you also give us a snapshot about you as well?
So, I am a business advisor to executives in primarily SaaS or tech companies. And I'm what happens if you have a McKinsey partner plus an executive coach who grew up building huge organizations, taking PowerPoint into business, and have this applied knowledge that I bring to bear.
Awesome. And your company name is
Ignite AI, ignite-ai.co. Thank you for
absolutely. And
asking.
you've written already two books.
Yes, so back in July, because I wasn't very busy or busy enough, I wrote two books. The first one is called The Edge, Your Brain on AI, which is talking about a use in a relationship with AI like ChatGPT, Claude, and others that really helps amplify who you are and what you do in a way that I think most of what I read and see about AI is more about how do I get more productive, how do I do things faster, and this is really about how you train yourself to work differently, and then uh, drive more insight, drive more execution because you are using AI. And the second book is about being the unpaid caregiver for my dad, who is in early stage dementia and all the things that you don't think about that when you're fighting with somebody who has cognitive decline and you think everybody is logical and data based and the conversations that happen and the protections that you have to put in place. And so both books became bestseller. And yes, that is me.
Awesome. Sounds very good. And just to put things in context, so we met, Betsy and I met on the first collaboration was a podcast episode. Feel free to check it out. I probably put the link somewhere in the description of whatever videos what comes out of this collaboration. And then this is a kind of a second project where we are collaborating on building Betsy's marketing system and starting with the core foundation of her brand and looking into in depth on what is her ideal customer profile, what is the value proposition, uh, to state it and articulate the value proposition, and then from there building a connection offer that she can put on a highly optimized landing page that can convert a stranger into handing over their email address and starting building and nurturing that relationship so that eventually Betsy could, um, uh, Betsy and that prospect could hop on a call and have a discovery call, and then from there see if they are a good fit to have a long-term customer agency relationship or customer coach or customer advisor relationship. So this is basically the project we are after. And I'm going to try to share my screen a little bit to just show the map of what we are doing here. So let's see. Yeah, so that's basically the map. The first week we did the ICP identification framework. We talked about everything like how to discover your ICP. And this week we're going to be focusing on the value proposition. And just to quick recap what we discussed last time, which is a framework that I've developed on how to really find this ideal customer profile, and Betsy and I talked in depth about it last time, which basically is looking at your background as a company or as an individual or a founder, and then shortlisting growing industries in within your scope, within your perception, within your field of vision, and then putting them in a short list. And then from there, try to scrutinize that short list of industries and using the four circle criteria in the right side to navigate and eliminate the niches that you probably don't want to focus on right now, and keep on the bull's eye, on the star, keep that niche that fits within all the four circles. And that would be your main focus as an ICP, at least for the coming 6 months, until you basically exploited that opportunity to the maximum. So we talked about last time, and we entered into a deep discussion with Betsy, and Betsy went home and she come up with a more in-depth analysis. By the way, Betsy, could you tell us, what do you think about this session of last time? What's your reflections? What was your takeaways from what we discussed last time?
So I believe this is incredibly effective. And one of the things that I was just writing an article about for LinkedIn is most of my clients, regardless of the issue that they hire me for, have no idea who they're talking to on the other side. And so, for example, if there's a marketing issue, they say, well, we market to med tech B2B companies. That's a category, it's not a person. And, uh, and it doesn't get precise enough in a way that you can really show how you're relevant to a person who is in a business trying to do a thing. And that's why I think the ICP is pretty powerful. And the other thing that I really like about it that I also don't hear enough when I'm working with other clients is they don't understand, they haven't thought about the easy to find, the enjoy working with, and the purchase power. If they're smart, the most that they get to is biggest pain, but the other elements are missing. And so it's great if you understand and you're solving a big pain. But if somebody, as you said last week, can't pay for it, and they are not easy to find in the sense that they're not in your natural network, and you don't enjoy working with them, then it's probably not the right client for you anyway.
Yeah. And last time we also went into discussion on whether an entrepreneur would fit within your ICP, or whether you want a more established company executive. And we talked about the difference between that. So right now, as of with this last week, you have thought about it. You shared some document and thinking process about this particular topic. Have you found or articulated who is your ICP right now?
Yeah, so I think the issue that I was having last week is when you were trying to put me into a place of talking to founders and entrepreneurs versus senior executives, is on both extremes. Neither of those things work for me because one doesn't have the purchasing power and the other one has too much bureaucratic process that a solopreneur can manage. And so the sweet spot that I came back with after many discussions with ChatGPT Dave is a tech or a SaaS executive in a business between 10 and 250 million that has maybe 50 to 500 people in the overall organization. And that is, from a purchasing power perspective, that's somebody for whom my particular fees and retainer are going to be a nit. Uh, and then I will not have to go through a massive RFP, procurement vendor qualification process that takes me 6 to 9 months.
Just for the record, when Betsy talked about Dave, it's her AI. So she
Yes,
has multiple ones,
that's
and
right.
each have their own kind of personality and character and a name. And
Yes. And one of the brilliant things about this day and age is even though I work, I'm a solopreneur, I have a whole organization built out in AI that I use for various purposes. And so Dave is he's my COO.
Yeah, and you say on LinkedIn that you build AI factories for those executives. So, in terms of ICP, and based on what you sent me in terms of documentation, we're talking about mid-size SaaS companies. We're talking about
Hmm.
executives within those mid-size,
Yep.
and what you did very good about is that you identified not only mid-size, you didn't keep it vague. You mentioned 50 to 500 employees. So we're talking
Hmm.
about a very specific type of companies that you can identify, easy to find, and you could look into the executives of those companies. And you
That's
mentioned that
right.
VP, CEO, CEO. So you're you nailed down the ICP into an identifiable, specific, um, a specific kind of avatar of people, which exactly what we like to see.
Yes. And then the other thing that I thought about, and I, as you know from last week, very much resisted picking a industry. And SaaS is, I guess it's sort of an industry. But the reason why SaaS made sense to me is that these are executives who have a great understanding of Agile from a development perspective and have an Agile approach to mindset and to business as well. And that I think is the type of leadership style that I very much enjoy working with. And then also would particularly benefit from the way that I work.
Yeah, and if we examine that ICP when we talk about executives in around 500 employee SaaS companies, if we evaluate the four circles here, what would
Hmm.
you think their biggest pain is?
So I think for many of them, it is an issue of scaling, right? And so they've gotten to a point and they're probably finding a couple things. One, it's harder to grow. Um, Two, the fissures in their foundations and the way that they do things are showing up, especially if they've grown very quickly. And so there might be both um, strategic revenue that they're trying to get at and figure out adjacent markets or how to do better at the markets that they're in. And there also might be gross margin operational issues that where things are breaking and they need to figure out how to do better. Um, you know, what are the levers that actually help improve their churn, improve their margin, what have you? They can no longer throw money at the problem or throw people at the problem. They need to get to that next level of consistency and maturity in the way they approach things. And then the other thing that I think that happens again in any company, um, much less the target that I'm going for, and the kind of executive problem that we have is we have this idea that more activity means better. An activity for an executive tends to be more meetings. And, meetings are not actually an outcome. And so what usually happens is everything is important, therefore nothing gets done. And what I really try to do from a coaching perspective is sort of think about what are the one or two things that truly, truly matter that you need to be focused on versus the 19 tasks that get put on your plate.
Yeah, and another when I was reading your documentation, when I also again it's an additional kind of idea around that biggest pain for executives these days, that they are seeing all that buzz going around AI, and they are kind of feeling left behind because they're very busy.
Yep,
Their time is so absorbed, and they don't have that time to dedicate to learn about how AI is going to help them, learn about how to integrate AI within their workflows. So
that's
there's
right.
a lot of uh, professional development that needs to happen for those executives to stay relevant in a very, very competitive landscape.
And
Um,
what's even worse, on top of that, what's even worse is many. governance boards and compliance officers and others are dictating how AI is being used in the companies, and they are not actually native users in the way that you and I are, right? And so you have these people who don't understand fundamentally how to use AI in the way that I do or you do, and then are coming from the, well, we can't let anybody use it because we have all these compliance issues. And the answer should actually be, this is what it can do. This is the way we would like to use it. We have these constraints, which are the compliance issues. And then now let's figure out how to achieve our goals using AI. And so, my typical client, who are senior executives in companies, they don't have time to learn AI. You are right. And they also are not necessarily hiring me because of AI, but they understand that by working with me, I will also teach them skills that they need to be successful and what I call robot proof in the future, because I fundamentally am trying to change the way they work, not just give them, strategic insight.
Yeah, absolutely. The other criterias are also you've really went ahead and identified them. Like they have the purchase power check. They are in a growing industry. Obviously, SaaS is a growing industry. They also they are easy to find. You mentioned that there are many platforms that can easily you can easily tap into that segment. So we're very good there. Congratulations. I think that you have a very strong ICP. So amazing. So we
I'll let
can,
Dave know.
yeah. So tell Dave that he
He
does
did
it.
a good job with me.
Absolutely. All right. So now that we identified the ideal customer profile, let me talk to you today about the articulation of the value proposition and why it's important. So
Yes.
we all, interact with people whether online or offline, and the first thing we are asked, "What do you do?" And this is a very difficult question to ask, and but it's very essential for us to know on the top of our mind on a very high level exactly how to answer that question. Not only it's good to for the person on the other side when you answer that question confidently and with clarity, you also it's also important for your business for because everything else stems from that statement, right? So if you have a clear value proposition, then your content will be easy to create because you know exactly where you're going after. Um, and also you know who is the person on the other side that you're talking to with your content, and then what you're trying to achieve with them. So this is a statement that whenever it's done, it gives so much energy and direction and purpose, and it clarifies the engagement with other people, and it also clarifies your own mission with your company. So how do we create that value proposition? And this is basically what I'm trying to achieve today in this slide. I mapped out so the ICP's biggest pain that you mentioned, the ICP's biggest pains, we list them down. We see, okay, which of these pains are like so crucial and need to be solved for the ICP. And then we looked at our skill set. What are some of the skills that we have that could contribute and effectively solve the pains or the problems that the ICP have? And it takes a lot of like research and soul searching. And once we have that map, we map the skill set we have and we map the pains of the ICP. Once we do that, then we can start doing the matching part where we match the pain with the skill set that we have or the skills that we have, and then we arrive into a dream outcome. It's kind of like a simple equation. Pain plus our skills equal dream outcome. And we do that for pretty much all the pains that we have for the ICP. And then we looked at the dream outcome and then we evaluate them. Which one is the most important? Which one is the highest priority? And which one is the one that the ICP would be willing to pay for? Once that is done, then we look into the mechanism of how we're going to deliver it in a unique, special way. And that's when we talk about the unique methodology within that value proposition. But also, we shouldn't forget that time is the most valuable asset that everybody have. So if I tell someone, just random example, if I tell someone that I can help you lose 30 pounds and I put a period there, and then the question becomes like, by when? Because 30 pounds in 5 years, no thank you. Like, I don't want 30 pounds in 5 years, right? we want we want a time frame that bounded that relationship within a time frame, time constraint, that makes it more tangible. And like, I know, like, in 2 weeks is different than 1 year, so there's that time that is important. But we also want to address any objection that they might have. So, oh, you want me to lose 30 pounds in 2 weeks? Well, I might die because of hunger. So that's the objection that naturally comes out when you propose this kind of value proposition. So you need to address any objection that your customer might be thinking about when you subject them to that proposition. Because in the end of the day, it's a proposition. It's like a proposal. Like, you're putting it in front of your ICP. And then finally, to battle any last minute resistance, we like to offer a guarantee. Like, in my on the Paris website, Paris Lab website, parislab.com, you will see that if unsatisfied within 30 days, you don't pay. So I make it so easy for them to say yes, because you know what? If you're not satisfied, we're not going to refund you all the money back. So with that guarantee, they will feel the decision becomes easier, and that's what we need to achieve. And then we finally end it with a CTA, with a call to action, because again, this is kind of like an elevator pitch or something. That so in the end of that elevator pitch, we want to ask for a next step, and that's where the CTA comes about. So what do you think about this structure so far?
I love it. Lay it on me. Give me your
Okay.
magic.
So w- again, I thought about the proposal I'm gonna tell you for your
Okay.
value proposition before this conversation. So I didn't have the insight that you brought just today. So I thought about the proposal initially when you sent me that documentation,
Yep.
but it might change. But here's what I came up with.
Okay.
Okay.
Can I write it down?
Sure. Yeah. You can even take a screenshot or something. So again, it's before all the insights that you just laid today. So you may go back and change it. But I want to highlight few things that are interesting here. So executives of around 500 employee SaaS. Notice that I didn't go with a range. I go into around 500. So we're talking more or less. So we're keeping that flexibility, but we have the 500 number there. So we are specific enough to know what are the companies that we're approaching. And then SaaS is your industry. Um, and then executives. So executives are the C suite, very, very, very clear. So we have a specific ICP. And then the dream outcome, this took me a long time to figure out, because you can uh, serve them with a variety of different services that they can benefit from. But I'm looking at what is the most tangible thing that you are giving them. What is the specific deliverable that um, they can justify them paying for? And time is the most precious commodity for those executives. If you can reclaim 10 plus hours per week for them, you are making a big leap in their productivity, efficiency, and time with their family, right? So you can package it in so many ways because and this is really the ultimate promise of AI, isn't it? Like it's really all about time saving, right?
I don't agree. So
Okay.
for me, the ultimate power of AI, time saving is an element of it, but the ultimate power of AI is it enables you to do things in a way that were impossible before and to get there better. And so, viscerally, yes, absolutely. Saving time for an executive is an important thing to do, but automating what they do today is not really an outcome. I'm not an automation specialist. I don't automate anything. But what I do think about, like in the case of my book, I wrote it in 72 hours. And so I didn't automate writing. What I did was I sort of thought about my thinking process and I said, well, I need this type of feedback. I need this type of research and insight, and then I created a factory of workers to help deliver that to me. Or and I need this type of um, I will need an editor at the end, but I did not automate the writing itself. So yeah, so
As
I
I
think
said,
that t- time t- time and effectiveness together are good. Automating actual process is probably somebody else. I'm not a automation or outsourcing genius, nor do I ever want to be, unless you're
s-
talking about how do you create better process for your brain.
right. So as I said, this is a proposal. So
Yeah.
we're just outlining here a thought process of how to
Yep.
approach that value proposition.
No,
And
very good thought process. Very good thought process.
yeah,
Absolutely.
and in the end of the day, when you talk about writing a book in 72 hours, where in the past, before AI, it would take you months. So what you reclaimed is months of work, right? Even if there's other effectiveness, you have still have to do a lot of work yourself. We are not denying that, whether for you or for the executive that you serve. We're not
Yes.
saying that we're going to replace your job with AI.
No, no,
We're
no,
just gonna
no.
saying that we're gonna give you more time so that you can do what you do now in less time. And that's really the
And
power.
again, no, I fundamentally disagree because AI is too much put in the place of a tool, which is exactly what you're describing, and it's an intelligence. And yes, there is the capability to have tons of agents to do work for you, but if you don't understand how you change work because you have access, and this is the story of the book and how I created the army of agents to help me create a better book than I would have if I had just been by myself with my computer and Google for research or the
Okay.
library. It is so just
So what
just
is
want
your
to be very
deliverable?
clear.
What is the specific deliverable that you can replace reclaim 10 hours per week with?
Well, I'm not stating that I reclaim 10 hours per week.
Yeah, but I'm saying what would you replace it with? Like if we were to remove that reclaim 10 hours per week and put something instead of it, what would that be?
So, say you have 25 projects that you have to work on, or 17, right? Whatever the number is, I tell you the three that create the most leverage. And so that saves you money, time, and then gets you to effective delivery faster. It's a higher level issue than just my personal time and how much time I'm spending on something and whether I can automate the tasks around it.
So you would help executives identify the the three top priority projects to work on.
That is something that I do. And so I have a framework that I use, which by the way, Naja, is automated, semi-automated, right? Because it can't be fully automated. You have to have interaction. That a normal consult. So let me give you the contrast. if you're going to hire a normal strategy consultant to help you define your strategy and your North Star and where you want to go and what markets to go after, there's a procurement process that happens in an RFP, there's a vendor qualification, and then there's contract negotiation. That's maybe easily, typically 2 to 3 months. And so then you have this idea that you want to get off the ground. You try to hire consultants, you've already wasted 3 months and countless internal hours to try to get the vendor in. And then there's a typical 12 to 16 week consulting project cycle that has a third of that in discovery. Not to mention, you're onboarding their team, and they want you to create a steering committee and all this other infrastructure because their goal is to sell you the next project and to land and expand. I can come in and you can be walking the dog, you can be going to Starbucks, and we could talk for 45 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever. And you can give me the layout of what you want to get to and where you want to go. And so, for example, if you have a million ARR target, here's the ideal state, here's the inputs and output KPIs, and then where are you currently at. And then I can do an analysis that shows you these are the top levers of inputs that you need to focus on. That's in one conversation in I can do it in less than 30 minutes if you have some basic figures about what are the KPIs that are important, and then what your own inputs in. I don't even need to know what best practice is because obviously I have access to all of that via AI.
Got it. Anyways, we're talking here about it's a sample value proposition. So I'm gonna keep repeating that because I don't want you to think that this is your value proposition. It's really you have to write your own value
Of
proposition. I'm just
course.
showing you a framework of how to articulate it, and
Yeah,
the main key
perfect.
points are underlined here. For example, 500 employees. How specific can we get? The better. 10
Hmm.
hours per week. This is basically a tangible benefit that an executive could get from, let's say, not if this is not your service or not relevant to you, but like, I would say that for me, like I would probably create a product around that value proposition because I feel that executives would love to save 10 hours per week and stay on top of the AI revolution because they hire us to be their AI consultant so that they could catch up and not miss out on that revolution yet, and see how I address the without part. So without adding to their workload, because this is what they don't want. They don't want AI to be an added workload. And therefore, we addressed that objection. And also, we added the within 14 days. So if I get engaged with a client, I want to establish I want to save them that 10 hours as quickly as I want, as quickly as possible. So I want to claim their 10 hours per week as soon as I can. And in my head, I think you are able to do it with by, and this is the methodology here, how would you do it? You identify their top three time consuming tasks. So the first question you ask your prospect or your client is that what are your top three time consuming tasks? And then from there, there is I've done automation, I've taken many courses on it, and I am I understand the concept, and I've done some automation myself. And there's something within robotics and automation called process mapping, which means that you take that task and then you break it down into little individual steps that needs to happen for that task to be completed. And then, so this is basically the methodology of how we're going to save them 10 hours per week within 14 days. So I will use that blue line here to identify. I mean, this could also be shorter at some point, like we could find ways to make it shorter, and then without, as I said, addressing the objection, and then finally a call to action. Now what is missing in this one is a guarantee. Perhaps we can add that, but in general, we don't have to use every element in that. For example, in these ones, especially when it comes to putting your value proposition on LinkedIn, we might not be able to put the entire thing there. However, just choose what is the most relevant, what's the most important, but you should know by heart like what is the individual elements within that value proposition that make a lot of difference. So I know that this is probably not so relevant to you, or you don't agree with it. Again, it's a proposal at this point. It's not something that I'm projecting at you. I'm saying you have to do this. Of course, nothing is like, you know
Of
yourself
course.
better, you know your skills better, you know what you want to accomplish with your clients. This is something individual to you. This is just a sample to give you an idea of how this value proposition would look like.
Yes. And so, for example, if I were to take this, I already know because I've been an executive in tech um, at some of the largest companies in the world, what the issues are and what are the things. Nobody even has to tell me what their most personalized, like how to save them 10 hours. When you're in meetings all day, you're context switching all the time. You don't have time to take notes. You don't have time to reflect on the meetings. So for some of my clients, and this doesn't take 14 days, it literally takes me a couple of hours thinking through how they think and how they like to see data organized. And I can create a custom GPT that they dump transcripts of their meetings into, and they get um, they get they get the outputs of the meetings that they can refer to in notes. The other thing is that a lot of executives spend a lot of time in reviewing people who work for them work. Well, if your standard operating procedure is you have a chat GPT that person goes to review their work against before they come into a meeting with you. You can be much more targeted in the meeting. Like all of those things I can do. It's just again, it's not my core. It's not the core value. If it's the most value to my client, I do it for them. But it is not the core value of me.
Yeah, and as for people listening, you're seeing this raw. So basically, Betsy and I never like did anything backstage. So all of this is happening
Clearly,
live. So we might disagree, we might agree, we might, fundamentally be on a different tracks here. But that's really what happened in the real world when we engage with clients. We, as an agency, we don't inherently know every single thing that goes in the mind of our client. What we try to suggest are frameworks and thought processes, and whatever we suggest something, it's more on, this is how we think about it, but we are not by no means claiming that what, for example, I think is going to be true for, what I think is true to you, Betsy, or true to anybody else. It's not the case. It's just that we are sharing what we know to be effective in crafting that statement, which is very
yes.
important for the long run.
Yeah, and the discipline. And again, I think the value is not so much that you nailed my value proposition. That wasn't the expectation. I think the expectation was here's an approach of a way you can think about it. And you're an external person sort of thinking about my market and what I said about my market and applying your lens to it. Whether it is nailing it or not, again, was never the idea based on a 30-minute review of the document that I sent you. It is the structure of the methodology behind uh, what you came up with, not the thing that you came up with alone. And that for me is the value of engaging.
Awesome. And just like you did with the ICP, last session, we had a session and then you went and then you shared with me your ICP statement and all of that.
Hmm.
Maybe for next week, you could work on that, and then hopefully,
Dave and I will whiteboard together.
the homework, I have to give you
Yeah.
homework.
I know. It's fine. It's fine. And by the way, I love it because this is, this is really important. This is really important. And having an expert like you help me crystallize the framework on which I hang my hat is makes me better than I would have been by myself, even with my brilliant army of chat GPTs.
Amazing. And then after we nail down the value proposition that is
Yeah,
specific and unique to you, we're going to look into building a connection offer. And this connection offer, some people call it lead magnet. I don't like to call it lead magnet because lead magnet feels very devilish, as if we are tricking the customer, which is really not the intention here at all. The intention here is really offering something of value and offer it in exchange for contact information, and it's in exchange for the opportunity to connect with that prospect. And this is it must be a very valuable thing. In my On my website parislab.com, I've outlined my connection offer, which probably I could perhaps like show you an example of it real quickly here.
that would be great.
Yeah. So this is basically the landing page of parrotslab.com. And as you can see, I have addressed my addressable market. My ICP is right there. And then this is what my promise to them is. And then here is my guarantee that I talked about. And here we addressed any last minute resistance. So the application process, obviously, I cannot take any client that comes my way. I have a very limited capacity. So I have, clients would have to apply to see if we're a good fit. So
Yep.
there's an application form, very small. It takes 2 minutes. And then I assured them that I take only limited number of clients and I don't take competitors. And then shortly down after, if they're not ready to engage us yet, they would download our 10-step B2B marketing framework. And I put so much effort into that connection offer. It is a substance of years of research into that and experience, things that I have experienced myself, things that I have um, deeply understood. And I'm not really claiming anything that does not really work for companies. So I really worked so hard on that. But this is basically my connection offer that I am offering to customers. So the week after, we're gonna try to figure out what is that for your business, Betsy.
Okay,
So we're
so
gonna really work hard on getting that done.
all right. So I think some of the terms and things, because I'm not a marketing person, I don't understand in the way that you do. So I really you just want me to come in with my value prop and we're going to work through all of the elements of the offer,
Yes. So the
even
next
if
week
I
is
disagree.
no, next week is gonna be your value prop week. So you're gonna
I'll
articulate
come
it.
in with
And
a value prop. Yeah.
yes, this is for next week. You make it personal, you make it yours. The only thing I can tell you with the value proposition is the more specific you are, the better. And then from there we can talk about how to develop that connection offer for
Wonderful.
based on the value proposition. It's
Yes.
not going to be straight, like they are all interlinked and they're
Oh, yes.
connected.
Hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, that's basically our plan.
Okay.
Thank you so much for
Are you
joining me
ready?
today. And if you have any more questions or any final thoughts.
I'm good. Thank you. I got my homework again.
Awesome. All right. So thank you so much, and I'll see you next Saturday.
See you next Saturday.
Bye.